We're very delighted to be here. We've really enjoyed our time in Australia, so I'm sorry we brought the English weather with us, but you come with it all.
You ever seen rain like that?
Oh, thank you for your invitation. Country's great. Hospitality second to none, and we've enjoyed every day.
And the wine's good. The red wine.
So you like the red?
And I don't think there's any kangaroos in Australia, because we've been here now nearly 2 weeks and we haven't seen a single kangaroo.
Well, there could be one down your street tonight. Beth Stevens here. I'll introduce you to her and she can tell you all about the red wine.
Pardon?
One of my friends, she drinks very sparingly. I think the best way to conduct this is to just go from square one. And Geoff, how did you first get involved in pigeon racing?
When I was 13, my uncle that used to live across the road from me used to race pigeons. He was a local bookmaker, and he was busy on Saturdays. I used to go over and wait for his pigeons to come home so I could time them in. Unfortunately, he was a terrible fancier and I very rarely typed any pigeons in, but I still got that.
Exactly. And you live in the district of Bath, which is southwestern England?
That's right, yes. Very close to the Mendip Hills. Near Cheddar, Stonehenge, Bath, a very lovely part of the UK.
And I can tell by your accent that you came from there too.
Most can.
Anyone that's been out on Freeman would recognise that accent for sure. All right, so you got involved in pigeon flying yourself at what stage?
I started keeping it when I was 13 and racing when I was 13. I never won a prize until I was 16, and then I won 3 races on the trot, and had a fair amount of success ever since.
And obviously you're very much involved too, Catherine.
Yes, I've always been very interested in the birds, even from when I was a teenager and I'd go to the pigeon club. And I'd see guys talking about pigeons, talking about how they race them, some of their crackpot theories, and it got me interested.
So what are Catherine's jobs and what are your jobs in the loft?
Well, Catherine tells me what to do and I do it.
Sounds good. Alright, let's move on to, with a great choice in Great Britain of different types of birds, the old types, western cocks and all those sort of pigeons, and all the imported ones from Belgium and Holland. How did you settle on a strain?
Originally, I had some of the best from England, the old English strains, and I always used to think they were the best in the world in my mind. And then I went to Belgium, saw their birds, their methods, the speed that they were racing compared to the speed they were racing in the UK. I used to be a natural flyer, sometimes a split door method. I saw their birds racing on the Willowwood, pigeons racing 5, 6, 7 years old, winning well. So I thought, I've got to change. So I tried it with a few of my birds to start with, not so successful. They didn't really settle into the Willowwood. Then we went back to Belgium, and at the time I went back, Emily Weir and Andre Vermont were probably the best on the international long distance racing. And they both exchanged pigeons successfully, so I bought a few from each. 2 years later I started Willowwood. Completely changed. Where I used to be the top prize winner, but there'd be people close to me. The first year I changed the Willowwood, I was the first one in the southwest of England racing the system. And it was like a different ball game. I could win way out of turn, and the top fans around just wouldn't want to hit them. It's such a step forward. I used to race the pigeons very similar to you racing them over here, some natural, some on the sliding door method. But the Willow just completely changed things.
over there you race during the summer, don't you, whereas we race in the winter?
Yes, we race in the summer, but our summer temperatures are actually very similar to your winter temperature. So in that respect, the needs and requirements of the birds with regards to the weather is very similar.
And you'll also notice here that we race our young birds right out, whereas you would couple yours and look after them in the first year.
If I race my young cocks the way you race your young birds, I wouldn't have nothing left for racing more birds.
And why do you think that is?
Well, my young hens, I race hard. I race them right through. I'm not too worried how many I've got left, but they go through about 450k across the channel, maybe 4 or 5 times across. It's really hard racing. When I go across the channel in national racing, we're about 150, 200 miles into France, and we're racing to a 300 mile front, east to west. So it's very hard. They have shortest part around about 90k of water, farthest part 200 odd k. So it's very hard. I race the hens hard. They mature quicker than the cocks. They're younger. They race well. They outperform the cocks. Cocks can win, but the hens really outperform them. But the cocks can be coats. They need time to mature. And if I wait till they're about 18 months old, then when they're older, they really outperform the hens.
Well, I think I'm understanding it. You're saying that they could hit England in a 200 kilometre front, and you bird 300 mile front, and if you got into the wrong pack, you'd never see the bird again.
They work in some, there are big losses, but then in the national where I live, some of the races would be 20, 30 birds coming out, 4,000 or 5,000 birds. So they have to learn, have heads, break, and come on their own. And you have to breed a bird to do it. When I started racing the channel first with young birds, I wasn't getting them. And, the local fans are the main. But the first young bird race we had of the season was in Guernsey, 120 miles. And it was only a 2-bird race. And I sat 3 years running, never saw a vision. And the guy over opposite, he was sending 2, and I was clocking 2. And I just couldn't, because normally I would beat him. But I just couldn't make out why he could beat me on this race so regular. And I said to him, how do you get the birds from there? Oh, that's easy, he said. I said, what I breed from that pair. Those youngsters will always fly it. And then I started catching on, and I thought of the birds, and when ones that would fly the channel, then breed random. And I've got a team fly it every day, well, not every day, but every race regularly, no problems.
Catherine, how big a hop is it over the water when you do fly France and beyond? How big a hop over the water? How much water do they have to fly over?
They have to fly, if they come straight from the northern French race points, they have to fly nearly 160 miles of water. So you do the conversion, 240, approximately 240 kilometres of water. And that can be changeable as the weather is out here. Because you get crosswinds coming from the Atlantic, there's the North Sea, you can get winds coming down, you can get slants in the middle, and many birds are lost over the water because of the weather systems in that channel.
Alright, so what we've learned so far is you've got to have a particular family or a particular breed that you develop yourself that will do it. Let's go back a step. We read a lot about English flyers, and we gather that there are some people who just fly club, some people who fly amalgamation or federation or whatever, but then you've got the elite flyers who race in the Barcelona International Club or the 2-bird races. So I guess you can choose what level you want to fly at.
Yes, anyone can send to any of the races. But it's hard. Quite a few good club flyers, when they go into the nationals, they come unstuck. A lot of the club racing is what we would term as corridor flying. They would be going to a 20 or 30 mile front. Where the birds haven't got a thing, they get up in the boat, come home and think of it. why one way or the other they can make home. When they go to the national, the front's so fast that the pigeons got to have a brain. And maybe not the fastest flying pigeon, but it's the one that comes the straightest way home that wins the races.
So you've now developed your breed from the Vermonts and the Worths. Do you still add other breeds in the much?
You've got to. You can't stand still. If you stand still these days, someone come along and overtake you. You've always got to be looking for higher and bigger. I try something every year. Trouble is, I need something at least as good as I've got, and probably better, and it's difficult to find. And when you find them, it costs you a fortune to buy them. What I buy, very little stuff. But when I find a good pigeon, I cross them into mine, and if they're as good as mine, then I cross back into mine. I used to, if they weren't better, I used to disregard them. That was wrong, because I find if I get them as good, and then I cross them back in, I always used to think the first cross, the higher the bigger, you would get the winners. But I find the best pigeons, I cross, and if they're as good, and I cross back in again, that's when I get the champions.
Okay, so there are the recording yours and 3/4 someone else's, or vice versa? 3/4 yours and 1/4 theirs?
No, I never go back into the pigeons I buy. I always come back into my base fan.
Oh, always straight back?
Yeah. Yes.
So the furthest away you get from yours is 3/4?
Well, furthest than half sometimes, but 3/4 and even back in again. And then through the family, I have about 3 lines within the family that I line breed to the lines, and then I cross those lines to get the hybrid bigger, and that works very well. And also, if Vermont, if the wearer gets a very good pigeon, he hasn't had a very good pigeon for a few years now, but when he has, I'll go by a couple of those and cross back in, and that gives the hybrid bigger, though it's the same family.
Now, of course, your crowning glory this past season was when you finished first and second in the Bordeaux International, 500 miles, 10,000 whole birds. Tell us about that day. What happened?
It was a marvellous day. The whole total convoy that day was over 22,000 pigeons, and I would say just under 20,000 was going to France, Belgium, Germany, Luxembourg and Holland. There was just over 200 flights to the UK. In the open bird race there was over 10,000, and we were first and second by a huge margin. We were first and third overall out of the 22,000 birds, and it was just unbelievable. It's everything you could dream for. But we were so excited on the day of basketing. We knew the birds, the whole team was right. We knew this one in particular was right. And Geoff and his friend Mark had calculated the expected time of arrival, and the bird came midway between the 2 times they predicted, and it was just indescribable. It's hard to put into words what you felt then.
Geoff, what was the velocity on that race? Was it a fast one? Was it steady?
It was a northeast wind. All the birds had to fly into it, but we never had a disadvantage that day. Normally with the west wind we had a disadvantage, but it was a level playing field. I had 10 pigeons that day booked into the Clark's Grand National, the National Flying Club. I had those pre-booked. But when I saw the conditions on basketing day, I thought the International could be won. So I pulled the birds out of the Grand National, put them all in the International. And then I thought, well, because over the last 5 or 6 years I had the best average, to a 3-year average, but I had the best average for about 5 or 6 years running on the top 3 years running from the Tars National. I thought, well, I cannot afford to drop out of that. So I thought, I have to send one to the National. So what do I send? I thought, that one has to go because I can rely on blocking it. I thought, well, I need that one in the International. And that's the one that won it.
So you made the right call. So was it an all-day fly or a second-day fly?
On the day, I should know exactly how long they took. I don't. They were up at, I think it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and we got at 25 to 6, 20 and 5. I don't know, within an hour. Yeah, but pigeon came, looked like it had been an hour around the loft, and it came, the way it came racing, it was twisted side to side, like you see a sprinter come from 50 miles, hit the roof. I thought, nothing's going to beat him. Catherine was saying, that can get me further up, that can get me. I said, yes, it can. And in my mind, nothing's going to beat that.
So how far behind was the second one?
The second pigeon came just over an hour and 2 minutes behind, hour and 5 minutes behind. And when he came with 5 young birds, not our young birds, but which had been out flying. And as he came, he circled round and clapped his wings a couple of times as if to say, I'm home. Came down in the loft, hour and 5 minutes behind. We thought he's going to be nowhere in it. And it turned out he was second international. So that shows the huge margin what the first bird was away. But the second bird is a brilliant bird, but the first bird had that extra motivation. He was just that bit keener. He had his home, his head on his line, and nothing was stopping him.
So it sounds to me as though he was an hour in front. He must have come across pretty well on his own from a fair way up.
He must have come all the way on his own. Mark Gilbert was first international yearlings, second overall international, and that pigeon was 47 minutes behind our first pigeon plowing overfly. So he just left the lot.
All right, we want to know how you prepared him to win a 500-mile race. What was the preparation?
Well, as a youngster, as I said earlier, young cocks get taken steady. We had 4 races. The top was about 90k. The young birds get raced. Training is very little. Young birds get 8 to 10 training tosses, maximum 40k. I never train youngsters between races. Once they've been trained, they just exercise around the home twice a day for an hour. Sometimes they fly a lot longer. So I had just 4 races. As a yearling, they went through the 600k, where I had a top national position out of that race. Race widowhood. When we race the old birds, they
Just pardon me a second. Are we having trouble over there, are we, or what? We're getting a bit of feedback over there. Please. Is it in the next room, is it? The people in the North Suburban room, just please bear in mind we can hear everything you're saying. Sorry, Geoffrey, about that, but everyone else is listening intently, and I think it's only fair that we give you attention. All right, so he had races as a baby, he had races as a yearling, and I guess he won it at the next season.
That's correct. When we were on the widowhood system, as old birds, yearlings and old birds, they have 2 training tosses. One about 15k, one about 30k. That is training finished for the year. We never put them in the basket for training other than that. They have to exercise around home for an hour, and then they normally get about quarter of an hour, half an hour, what I call play time to do what they want. We have 2 inland races at 50 miles because they're close to the coast, and then they have to go across to a 300k race.
So they jumped from 50 miles to 300.
Yeah. Twice we have. Twice we've gone 2 training tosses, 1 50-mile race across the channel into a 200-mile race. National race. Twice we have won that national race. 4th time in the basket for those pigeons that year. I think is what Mr. Walker said earlier.
Rob Marshall.
Sorry, I do apologise, Rob Marshall.
Oliver Marshall.
I get known in the brains guy. I think training can be very, very detrimental.
So you would have a fit if you saw our fellows train them 70, 80 miles every 2nd or 3rd day.
In England, I watched them burn the petrol, burn the tyres, And I would say 99% of the fanciers do what you do.
But over here, the ones that work the hardest have the most luck.
If you took myself and Mark Gilbert out of the equation in England, it would be the same. But how do I say this? I don't want to sound pompous or big, but we win the lion's share.
Well, you're certainly aware of that. All right, so this bird had a couple of 50 milers and then a 200 miler. Was that it?
No, then it had 300, no, one in between, didn't it? Yeah, I think two in that race, one in that race, 3 over, and then the last race was 3 weeks prior. That would have been about 480 K.
300 mile.
Yeah, and then two weekends off, wait, third section out of that national race, the third section, 2 weekends off, and then into the race. I find that is normal, what I do for long distance racing. 2 weekends off and in. And if the bird are 3 years old, and I want to go on, they have 2 weekends off, they have a 500 or 600 mile race, 2 weekends off, into another 500 or 600 mile race, 2 weekends off, into another 500 or 600 mile race.
So your birds could fly 3 500s in the one season?
With no problem at all. One we had that was second national from Burton, that's 648 miles. That was, he had Dax International, Paul National, 523, 570 and 648. He was second national in the third one.
That's a lot of work, but obviously they're third year they're ready for it. Catherine, was there anything special that you noticed about this pigeon?
Well, we wanted to win this race. It's always been our dream to win an international. So the motivation is key. You get the birds fit, they're in form, but they need that X factor. And we wanted to motivate him just that little bit extra. And it took extra time, extra effort for both of us, but it was worth it. Right. I'll let Geoff explain that, because I'll tell you wrong.
Right, we're going to find out the motivation that was you to fun.
And remember, no one in the UK knows this.
All right, so this is we're hearing it first.
To start with, to win a long distance race, in the UK, if you could get a pigeon to fly 500-600 miles at 800-900 yards a minute, you could win. Today, that's no good at all. You've got to have sprinters that fly 500 and 600 mile races. The old steady pigeon, the old English pigeon is gone. And you've got to treat them like sprinters. You've got to wind them up, you've got to get them really keen to go. But it's no good winding any pigeon up that's not in top form. If you send a pigeon 95% fit, it's going to fly with the bunch to start with. It's not going to pull away. Whatever you do won't have any effect. Once you've got top form, once you've got them really right, then you can wind the pigeon up.
So how did you do that?
To wind those up, to start with, they hadn't seen their hens for 3 weeks. 2 weekends off, hadn't seen their hens for 3 weeks. And the hens for 1 hour. Then Catherine, I basket the birds, Catherine took them 5 miles. Let them go, they came back. They came into the loft, and their hens then was not in their box weight, they were in the hens with all the other cocks.
So they came home to see all the other cocks in their box.
Yeah. As soon as they came in, I picked them up and throw them back out. They would fly around there in a couple of minutes and in. Pick them up and throw them out again. They would be in about 20 seconds.
So they're beginning a bit of a rage by now.
Pick them up, throw them out again. And they couldn't wait to get in. When they can't wait to get in, basket. Normally, you put little cocks in a basket to try and fight one from another. Put them in like that. All they want to do is get through the lid, get through the bars, get out. Then they're well like that. If they're not really fit and really healthy, you send them like that, you will never see them again.
Yes, as you imagine if they went away in a highly excited state that they'd burn out pretty quickly.
Yeah. I was always told by other Belgians who basket long distance pigeons calmly that things have moved on so vastly over the last 20 years. You've got sprinklers going right up that can fly all day and out the next day and race and really motivate. Pigeon's got to lead 22,000 birds. He's got to fly on his own. He's got to race all the way. You've got to have everything spot on.
One thing with that is you cannot do that more than once or twice a season, because if you do it more often, it becomes normal. So what? My head's there. You know, that is just for the 1 or 2 special races you do that.
Well, last year we had time later on why it hasn't been as successful in Australia. That I guess your answer is going to be because they don't know how to do it properly. I understand you've got a very interesting system as far as getting the fresh air into your lofts. What is the situation you've got for ventilation?
Your lofts over here are like all the lofts that mine used to be in England when I started racing pigeons. Always wanted them in fresh air. And then the front of my loft was all wire, and honeysuckle planted over the wire started to grow up. And the more the honeysuckle grew, the better the performances, even in the hot weather. Then I put glass inside the honeysuckle, and they race better. And then I started closing some of the vents up, and they race better. But you have to have fresh air. So I tried to design it like a house. If you cut the bottom off your doors in a house, and have the windows the other side open, all you would be sat in is a draft. You wouldn't be comfortable, you wouldn't rest. And we're animals the same as the birds. The birds got to be comfortable. If you watch them normally, they get in a place where they are comfortable, not stuck in the middle of the draft. So our air comes in the top, because it's colder than the inside air, it drops to the floor, and then we have to cheat it. But remember, my loft is 5-inch insulation block. There's 4 inches of insulation in the floor. There's 8 inches of insulation in the ceiling. Double glazed windows. And I have over the racing loft, which is 85 foot long. There's 4 2'6", what's that in metric? 600?
Yeah.
600 by 50 mil gaps. But there is a chimney in each section. And the air comes in, because it's colder, it drops, and we try to smoke test, it percolates, and it goes out, because chimneys would draw. And even when there's no air, it draws. But the chimneys go out into the roof space. The whole ceiling is covered with insulation on top. But the chimneys go into the roof space. There's no felt under the tiles. The ridge is stuck on with silicone, so there's plenty of airspace. If I put the chimney through the roof, on hot days, you would get a down pressure. We get the east wind, we would get a down pressure, and it would change the whole ventilation and ruin it. But because the chimney's within the loft space, it can percolate out, we never get a down pressure, and you can go in there when it's full of pigeons, and you can never smell pigeons.
So the temperature remains pretty constant all the time?
I think it is very, very important to get pigeons informed to have constant temperature. If I lived here, I would build my loft exactly the same. A, to keep the heat out, or if the cold nights went cold, if they do, to keep it constant. It needs to be constant. When the temperature is going up and down, the form drops up and down, and it is no good. If you had hot weather day and night, and you'd be okay with your wire front. Once the stuff is starting to change, the one who's constant will beat you.
You get plenty of condensation in the window. Catherine,
you don't drink as much water, and that can hit the form. So anything I add, which is oils, is always on the form.
what about, sorry?
The corn The verse along the court only has about 5% pellets in, maybe less.
Yeah.
Around about 5% pellets, the rest is mains, etc.
Because feed is so cheap in Australia, we feed a fair percentage of peas. Peas are not.
When I used to mix meal, I used to feed 18% peas or peas, beans and tails. To start with, I used to feed 25, that was too high. I went down to 20, that was too high. Too much protein is not good. Birds, when they fly, for the first hour will burn carbohydrates. After that, they switch to fats. When the fats run out, they go back to carbo, and then they're burning protein. Once they turn on protein, they're in big trouble. They will burn some protein, obviously, converting the other foods, but 18% peas, beans and tares a day. Now, I used to like 45-50% maize, around about 15% wheat. I always used to put about, I still do, about 5% barley to regulate the corn. I always feed the pigeons what they want, but next time I feed, I like a few grains of barley. That regulator tells me I'm giving them enough, they're not hungry, but when I let them out, they will exercise. When I call them back in, because they're not really hungry, there's always a few peanuts in a tray, and after 3 or 4 weeks, they get, if they're not in early, they don't get a peanut, so the trapping's always good. I would also used to feed a lot of millet, around about 15-20%. That was a good mixture, but to that I used to always add some vitamins, but now I don't because the vitamins in the pellets. I'm pretty sure that you can overdo vitamins, you can overdo all supplements. Some people think one's good, twice as good, but that doesn't work.
What about medication?
If a patient's ill, I'll treat it. I would say 2 of my best years ever, no treatment whatsoever. I tell this to people and they say, like this on. I can only tell you what I do.
So you're not treating them with a canker cure all through the year?
Would you want to train for a marathon? Would you go to the doctor and say, well, I want a cold treatment, I want this treatment, that treatment before I start to train? You have, yet you do it to your pigeons. If you've got a problem, it's got to be sorted. If they're not healthy, you won't get fitness. But you don't, if the pigeon's looking well, if he's kept well, if your hygiene is good, if your loft is drying, big capital letters, that is the most important thing. Pigeons should stay healthy. Canker treatment, the stoppers have had it for years and years. The racers had it last year. This year, well, no. We've been 211 never had a treatment. 210 they had it once. The year before they never had a canker treatment at all. I believe I read a book years ago by Wendell Levy. He's in keep pigeons for meat. Thousands of fly pens. And he found that by not treating for canker, you would always have a low level in the crop, and the immunity came up, and if any hot bugs came along, they were fine. In the fly pens where he used to regularly treat, if he had a hot bug come along, he was in big trouble. We got microscopes, we look for worms, we look for toxin, we look for canker. And I won too many times with small canker counts, but just don't worry about it.
What about the temptation, that when you won the international, that bird and the second bird was something worth a lot of money? Was there people knocking on the door wanting to buy them?
There was. Within 10 minutes of us telephoning the time into the secretary, we had somebody ringing up on behalf of a Chinaman wanting to pay €75,000 for the pigeon. And even me, who thinks, yes, what could I get with that? I didn't hesitate and I said, no, it is not for sale, full stop, never, ever. Because you work hard all your life for a pigeon like that to win a race. If you sell it, what have you got? You've got memories, But every day we can go in that lot, we can see that kid, though he's retired, he's in the stable, he's happy, he's bouncing around his box, he's living the life of Riley. I mean, money can't buy you that. Money can't buy you looking at that pitch and thinking, yes, that's an international winner.
You've had limited time to look at Australia. What are some of your observations? And is there anything that you've noticed that we could improve on straight away?
Yes. How do I say this? I come to a place like this, your hospitality is brilliant.
Well, I'm asking the question, so I expect an answer.
and I won't tell you what I don't think. I think your loss are rubbish. I think your pitches are good. You've got some pitches from the best places. Your system, you race the same system as I do young birds, which is brilliant for young birds. But my young birds always race well. But if I train my willow cocks with my young birds, the willow cocks would go 10 minutes out on the young birds every time. I'm sure if somebody, I know you're racing in the winter, and I know you said we can't do this year because of that, we can't do it because of this. In England, when I say I don't train, I don't do it. Yes, if you live where I was, you win nothing. I don't believe any of that. It can be done. And I think somebody can get hold of it and really put their mind to it, put their love right. You've got the birds, no ifs or buts, you all got the birds. You're all good stockmen. But if you've got the system right, it'll all move to a different level. That's my opinion.
Yeah. You should understand that we can have a couple paired together now, breeding youngsters, and in 3 months' time they'll be in the same lot together and they won't even look at each other.
Yeah.
So how are you going to inspire them to race to each other?
You don't. You have patience. There's only one younger season. I've got a cotton man racing 8 years of age. This year he was third section national 7 years of age. Last year he was third section 6 years of age. This year he'll be racing 8. You kill your young cocks before they get started. Looked after. You cannot motivate these youngsters this way. His yearlings, they're stupid, and you have that patience. 2, they're brilliant. 3, they're even better. 4, 5, 6, 7, they're as good as they are in 3. There's a long line, and people say to me, but we got parrots, we got this and that. I had 6 parrots nesting within 5 miles radius of me this year. And that is normal. One of the reasons I don't train, because if I do, I get annihilated. So you change to suit the system.
It's around the loft, or do you just go up the road 10k, 15k?
The old birds get 2 of those crosses, finished. The youngsters get 8, 10 maximum. So the maximum I put a pigeon in the car for training is 12 times a year, old and young. But they fly around the loft. The young birds, you stop and think of your young birds to start with. You got them fly in the skies. You put them in the basket. You take them and they come home. You take them every day for a week and let them out. They won't fly in the skies. You've got a job to get them to fly half an hour. You take them every day for a fortnight. They won't fly 10 minutes. The art of younger racing is to keep them flying. So I go on, put them in the basket, coach them 5 days apart. Come home, get them exercising, flying well. Then another training course. Home, wait, they're flying really well, go an hour and a half, 2 hours, another training course. So I train 8 times over a period of about 6, 7 weeks. And then I race every week with the youngsters. No other training. You say what you burn off in petrol, what you burn off in time. In England, they're paying pounds and pounds in our traffic. Well, it takes them 3 hours to get 50 miles. And then they've got to get back again. It's crazy.
All right, thank you very much for elaborating on your system. We will have an opportunity very soon, after we sell the next lot of birds, for you to ask questions of our guests, along with